Well, I think right now we're in just unprecedented times. So we're all trying to kind of get our feet underneath us and get a feeling of what's really happening and how it's happening and preparing ourselves for what we believe could be the future. We're looking at the situation with the virus today, but we also have to look at the future and understand that we have to recover from this, and we will. We're a strong, especially Mesa County, we're a very strong community, and I think we'll come out of this just fine. But right now, the uncertainty is the thing I think that bothers people the most.
Now you have come out with a small business loan plan. Let's talk about that a little bit. It's for the state, not just Mesa County.
Correct.
Now, what made you want to do that?
Well, basically, that's the federal, the Small Business Administration came out with a program based on the president's and the Congress's request for, I believe it's $805 billion. We had to get that approved for the state of Colorado for all 64 counties, and that was accomplished yesterday. And now any small business that's feeling an effect from the virus can certainly get online and apply for that right now.
Let's talk a little bit more about the details. $2 million maximum,
Mm-hmm.
and what are kind of the criteria to apply for those loans?
Well, basically, it's like any other loan, right? I mean, they're gonna fast track these loans, from what I understand. The interest rates will be very low, and they'll have to qualify for the loan. They'll have to have decent credit, of course. But a lot of things will be waived, and the speed will be the most important thing for businesses that need to make payroll and get the things done that they need to get done immediately.
Yeah, I noticed.
Answer Shelby on this, right? But this is something you would recommend because with the fast track and the fact that there are businesses hurting here, you would recommend that they look into this very seriously?
Oh, absolutely. I would recommend that businesses, owners in Mesa County right now get online and apply for those loans.
And I think time would be a major issue for business owners, and I noticed it says 3 weeks.
Correct.
Talk about that a little more.
Well, in the world of finance, that's pretty darn fast to get a loan up to $2 million. So I wish it could be 2 days because people need it that quickly. But it's the nature of business loans, and but I think the accelerated version of what they're doing, that's something that typically takes 6 months. So weeks, yes, are very critical right now, but I think that's probably pretty darn good.
Now, how is this affecting the business of elections? I mean, this is a big year, 2020. Primaries, caucuses,
Sure.
What's going on in that world?
Well, everybody's adjusting, right, based on the governor's emergency order. So we're taking our time. People have looked at this. We're going to be doing remote voting on the assemblies that are coming up this weekend. We're going to make sure there's no crowds that develop. There'll be less than 4 or 5 people, and we'll be doing video speeches to our constituents that'll be broadcast live on YouTube and Facebook. Just using technology the best we can. And then, of course, people will get their ballots, and they'll have a few extra days to vote. And then things will kind of wrap up by next weekend. And hopefully that goes smoothly. And quite frankly, everybody that's working on these elections are volunteers. So I realize people get a little upset about some of these things, but patience is required because they're doing the best they can.
You said voting remotely. How's that going to work?
Basically, people will get a ballot by email. Their credentials will be checked based on their name on the listings, and they'll actually vote for who they want to, and they'll mail the ballot back into the, in our case, a Republican office, and the Democrats, I'm sure they'll be mailing it back to some post office box or something for the Democrats as well.
Wow, that's big.
That's a big deal. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Especially this year. Can we talk about
I knew that was going to happen. Sorry.
okay. Can we talk about the mood at the Capitol right now?
Mm-hmm.
It's closed.
Correct.
So
What we did is we had to err on the side of public safety. There's 100 legislators there, plus the governor and all the staffers that are involved. So we were probably upwards of 250 as far as people. The problem with the Capitol is it's a tourist attraction. And we were kind of the animals in the zoo, if you will. So if we took the animals out of the zoo, people would not want to come to the Capitol. That was the intent. Because our first priority is public safety. It was not passing legislation. That stuff can all wait for another day. So right now we're most concerned about our constituents, quite frankly.
let's talk about testing. Testing.
this is bad. Now you and I are. Yeah, there you go.
You make me do it.
He gave it to me. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
No,
I'm here to help.
Put you in quarantine together.
you're going to start scooting back here in a second. She's going to be. By the way. Yes.
So testing nationally has been a huge topic.
Oh, yeah.
And here in the state. state, and specifically in Mesa County, the Public Health Department has been pretty strict about its testing requirements. Do we see that changing? Do we see testing being more readily available to the public?
Sure. The state itself is doing a couple different things. Number one, you've probably heard about the testing lab that they're moving around. They're doing that in areas where they feel the virus might be going, or they're starting to see cases. We just talked about this a little bit earlier. It's kind of like a saying that Wayne Gretzky said, a famous hockey player, that you play the puck where it is going, not where it is right now. So they're trying to get ahead of it by going to different areas and doing some initial testing, collecting the data, using some science, and trying to decide what are the most areas that the areas we have to worry about the most.
Do you think, I know I did interviews with the Colorado National Guard, and they're a big part of that testing unit. Do you see more testing units being available, or that expanding at all?
You know, I think where we're at is, as time goes on, we're going to have a much clearer picture of where we're at. And I think things will come, we'll have a better feel for what's going to be needed and what doesn't need to be needed, or doesn't need to be deployed. So I think we're kind of in a wait and see mode, as uncomfortable as that is. I think we really do have to kind of wait a few more weeks, or maybe just a couple weeks, and we'll have a much clearer picture of where we're at and where the testing needs to be ramped up, ramped down, for an example. But I do know this: the Mesa County is doing, I think, a really, really good job with our health department, taking care of those that are obviously have obvious symptoms of the disease.
Can you talk to, Mesa County has a large senior citizen population. Can you speak to those people?
Sure. And I think from what I'm seeing is a lot of those folks are taking this very seriously, as they should. They're sheltering, they're staying home. The biggest, and one of the most critical pieces is making sure that the rest of us help them. And I think community is going to come together here. We're a very, very strong community. And I think that's going to be very important. It's kind of a good nexus, really. I can talk about something that's kind of been going on. I've been working with West Slope Koga, our oil and gas friends here in the valley, and other businesses are getting involved in an effort to have a hotline system where people can call one number. So if they're sheltered in place, so to speak, or they're concerned, they can certainly call this number, and then that will be connected to all the organizations that are the churches and some of the food banks that can then take care of their needs. Hopefully that's going to be up and running in the next couple days. I think I will just tell you what that's about because I have to read this. The main number, and what we need people to do right now is to give what they can, because they have to raise some money for software. Need to call 245-9814 is the number that you need to call. And the group is called ARMOR, A-R-M-O-R. And you can get directions on how to donate to that effort, because it's very important that people get involved in this. And it would give a resource then to those folks we're talking about that may be confused. Maybe they don't have family here. They have one number they could call, and then that they will dispatch them what the needs are, whatever they need based on the criteria that the person's calling about. So I'm very happy with that effort. There's a lot of folks locally that are involved in this, and it's been kind of waiting, if you will, for the funding to move forward. And with that, I think it's going to be a really good system for people to be able to utilize.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how that came together?
Well, basically, it was just discussions that we were having about what can we do? What are the most important things? We all know there's different agencies, the Red Cross and United Way, but could there be one phone number where people could call and find out what they can do, where the resources are at, where can I get help for a particular problem they might have? And it could be anything from a flat tire on my car, to I need milk and bread at my house. Because we now know there are people being unemployed here in the valley, and that's very, very scary for those people. And maybe give some comfort and relief to them the best that we can. And this will be a manned system. My understanding is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where people can call with the needs that they have and get help.
Awesome. Another question. Colorado is kind of one of those states that's leading this effort to contain, to minimize, flatten
Yes.
that curve. Talk about that. How does that feel to be a part of this state?
Well, I'm proud of what we're doing. I mean, we're in scary times. And the uncertainty is what drives concern, right? People are just kind of not knowing what's going to happen. Do we feel affected or we don't feel affected? We want to live our lives the safest way we can. And so I think we've done a lot of different things here in the state. The governor's emergency order pretty much took the legislature out of it, which we understand that. You can't have 100 people telling people what to do. So we have to trust the experienced people that we have, and that's very important. I think a lot of people forget about the fact that a lot of these people we're dealing with around the state of Colorado have years and years of experience in dealing with emergency management. We've had floods, we've had forest fires. These people are really good at what they do, and it's difficult to trust other people when you feel like you're in peril, but that's what we do in Colorado. We're a strong state and we're strong people. And here in Mesa County, we have some very, very experienced folks working on all these issues, and give them a little bit of trust. I mean, it's difficult, I understand, but you have to do that.
I just want to circle back to the business loan situation.
And that is federal, by the way, just, okay.
Yeah. Well, being that it's a federal program, that can be kind of daunting for, I think, small businesses,
Sure.
especially here in Mesa County.
Oh, yeah.
Speak to those business owners about what advice you have for them in this
Sure.
critical time.
Well, and we're fortunate. A lot of the small businesses here have gotten loans from the SBA, so they understand how that system works, because it typically works through a small bank, or any bank in town is where the money actually comes through. So they're kind of used to that process. For the business owners that have never used the Small Business Administration, I think they'll find it probably a pretty easy system to work through. Once they get their application in, my understanding is the federal government is really staffing up to be able to handle that as quickly as possible. So again, they're going to have to give it a try and see how it goes for them. But I would highly encourage them to get in queue as quickly as possible.
And where can people go for more information?
I don't have that website. But
Okay.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I was gonna say-
I think it's on the
Yeah, there's a-
governor's,
yeah,
news conference.
it is. I don't think I
email.
have
I'll
it.
get that for you, Shelby.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it yesterday and now I don't have it.
No,
It's
it's
somewhere.
pretty readily
It's
available.
like
I'll get-
SBA. It's kind of like disaster SBA something.
Yeah, .gov or something.
Yeah,
like
something like that.
Yeah, it's close.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
we'll get
I didn't have that.
Ray, one last question
Yeah.
from me, and Shelby may have a
Yeah.
few more. Getting back to testing, the Vice President said this morning in the Coronavirus Task Force in Washington, said testing is key. A lot of people are nervous, and there's a lot of information.
Sure.
Can you focus in a little bit on the importance of testing, but maybe not overloading the system?
Right, and that's that's part of what I think everybody is concerned about, because they want the ability, even if they feel fine, to go have this test. And I think the problem with that is if you take 100,000 people and ran them to a testing facility, yes, we're going to run out of tests. So people that feel they have the symptoms and have talked with their doctor, and the doctor is probably going to recommend they go get the test. But just for anybody just off the street just to decide they want to get a test, it's probably going to be very difficult to do, just because we are limited on the number of tests. Mesa County has been very good at keeping me informed that they have plenty of tests right now, that they're very well prepared for that, and there's more coming from the state. But that's part of the critical component of this, is trying to get as many as possible. And you can probably imagine 300 million people in the U.S., to have that many tests available would be incredibly difficult for any government to be able to handle.
Off of that, the health department was talking about the fact that although they have a lot of the swabs, the tests, the labs are the places that are overwhelmed and
Right.
that have gone from a 24-hour turnaround to a 5, 6, 7 day turnaround.
Sure.
And the governor at the same time last week has called for medical personnel to come out of retirement, has called for out-of-state personnel whose licenses don't work here, they'll be expedited. I mean, I know we're working, but our labs and our hospitals, are they going to become more better equipped to handle this right now?
Well, I think the smartest thing that we're doing is we're doing a public-private partnership. So you've got the government labs, but then you also have private labs. And I know that's being ramped up tremendously to speed that whole process up the best that they possibly can. How many labs we have in Colorado, I don't know the answer to that. But that's the whole point, is to try to bring as many people together as we possibly can from the private sector as well as the public sector to get these tests done quickly.
This is obviously a bipartisan issue.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
Can you speak to how people in the government are working together right now?
You know, it was really nice to see, quite frankly, at the Capitol, because this was not a partisan issue. This was about the public safety, and we all understand that. And everybody came together quickly within a couple of days and got the legislation passed that we needed to, got this to the governor's desk as quickly as possible so that we could move forward quickly. There was no bickering. There was nothing anywhere close to that. If we were allowed to, we would have held hands. But but we couldn't. So, but everybody was very much on the same page. I have had really no partisanship flare up any place at this point. A lot of supportive phone calls, a lot of people reaching out to me. And by the way, if somebody wants to talk to me directly, they're more than happy to call my office at 303-866-3077, and I'll get back to you just as soon as I can. We've got people manning those phones as well. Well, I think there's a tremendous amount of information. I think the biggest thing is that people just need to be calm. It's hard, especially when you're trusting people you don't know. Very, very difficult. And I really do think the picture is going to become much more clear in the next couple of weeks. As painful as that is, I really think it's going to become more clear.